I'm trying to remind myself what book we are on. It's technically not 20, but we're going to be doing books 21 through 23 here, and I don't know how far we'll get with this recording. But today you guys should open up. Now I'm not positive if your reading selection has page 940, but that's truly where we'd like to start. And I like to draw something up on the board. If Miss Wright remembers how to draw this up on the board for my 4th hour group, hopefully those of you that are in my 6th hour class can also get this. But on page 941, it says, in ancient Greece, rules of hospitality governed the behavior of hosts and guests. The Greek social code required people to take strangers in and feed them without question. Remember that King Alcinous, a model king, hosted a banquet for Odysseus without knowing who he was. Whereas the barbaric Cyclops not only refused to give Odysseus and his men food and drink, but started to eat them instead. After allowing a stranger to stay as long as he wished, a host also had to give him a gift when he left. These obligations were enforced by Zeus, the king of the gods, and also the god of hospitality. Guests as well as hosts could violate the code of hospitality. In this part of the Odyssey, you'll meet the suitors who, believing that Odysseus is dead, want to marry his wife, Penelope, and take over his lands and fortune. Because Penelope still hopes for a reunion with her husband, she delays making a choice, but the suitors remain. My God, people, that's like, it should be a huge epiphany that blew your mind. He's been gone for a really, really, really long time. I want you to consider, did they tell us how long he's been gone? They've given us some clues. So, we've got to pay attention to this. I'm going to double check. Oh my God, yes. I forgot. We got to read this at the very top of the page. It says the following excerpts from the Odyssey present the hero's homecoming. Odysseus returns to Ithaca and is reunited with his wife and son after an absence of nearly 20 years. If you had not seen a close relative, a grandparent, a parent, or a sibling for a long time, how would you react when you were reunited with him or her? What thoughts, feelings, and problems do you think you might have? Now consider, this is so far back in history. There's no text messages. There's no telegrams. There's no cables, TV, radio, nothing, absolutely nothing. Okay? And he's been gone for 20 years. Now, do we know where he's been gone all those 20 years? I hope somebody raises their hand and says something here. Please tell me you say something. Well, if we went back to the very, very beginning, which I'm not going to flip back there, there was a point where Odysseus had gone off in the story, the Iliad. That's the story that they talked about before book 1 opened, and it was when Odysseus went and he was fighting and trying to get the Trojan horse into Troy. That wasn't the only part of the battle, but that ended up being the big climax of it. So there was 10 years that happened there. Now let's not forget, oh my God, hey, we were with Circe. How long were we with Circe? Even though he was married. He was with Circe, I thought they said, was that 1 year or 2? You guys got to know that. Now, they also just told us in book 12, he was with Calypso. How long was he with Calypso? Do you remember that? I mean, if I flip back, it seems to me it was like 7 years. Did you guys write that down in your summary sheets? Oh my God, he was with Calypso. Calypso, oh, another beautiful, beautiful chick. Can we suppose here that could he have been playing checkers for any of that time? He's a male. She's a beautiful female. Stands to reason that there was a lot of checker playing in 7 years' time. So, but he's married. Okay, I divert from my real point here. Wow, though. 8 years. 8 years with 2 different women that were not his wife. I'm sorry. We got to remember this, but wow. Okay, so 10 years at battle. He's been 8 years between those 2 women playing checkers. And we still have 2 years that are unaccounted for. Can anybody identify what happened in those 2 years? What do you suppose it could have been? Because we don't see the whole Odyssey. Anybody? I'm hoping somebody's going to answer soon. So feel free to pause, whoever's playing the video. I travel by ship. I travel by raft, whatever I've got to use to get anywhere. So if I'm going out by the water, I don't have any motors. All I can do is row and pray for wind. And, I can put some sails up if we have wind. But I have to be real careful in all the rough water. And, if there's rough water, maybe I don't sail. So it stands to reason, yep, it's going to take me a couple years maybe to get back because we've traveled so far. Okay, so now we should be able to move on just a little bit. So it says something about, on page 941 again, about the literary analysis, and we have to remember this. It says a major feature of the epic is its scope. Now, hopefully you guys wrote something down on this sheet about what an epic was. It had to be something that has a long and involved plot. It has to have multiple conflicts. I think it has that. It has to have a larger-than-life hero. Not larger like tall and grand, but somebody that is willing to go up against multiple foes and survive. Has to have large-scale settings and the themes of universal significance. So, the Odyssey, wow, seems to me that it fits all of that criteria. So, when Odysseus wants to go home, but he's been gone so long. How does he get there? Remember, this part is going to pick up right when, he's getting ready to leave Alcinous. That was the king we saw in the very beginning of the story. It says, with the help, and I'm on page 943. With the help of King Alcinous, Odysseus finally returns home to the shores of Ithaca, where he is met by the goddess Athena. We have not seen her, and we want to write her name down. Again, that's Athena. He's met by the goddess Athena. So, because Odysseus showed up, had help from King Alcinous, now he's on the land, the island where he grew up. Meets this goddess Athena, and she warns him that his palace is overrun by more than 100 suitors. He's got 100 men there trying to win his wife's hand in marriage because every single man there believes he's dead. They believe Odysseus is dead, and they want to marry Penelope and take over his fortune. Following her advice, Odysseus disguises himself as a beggar and visits the palace. There he sees that 2 suitors in particular, Antinous and Eurymachus, you guys want to write both of their names down. Antinous, Antinous, and Eurymachus, Eurymachus. They are rude and demanding. Odysseus has a tearful reunion with his son, Telemachus. You also want to write down his name. Telemachus is Telemachus. And together they discuss how to avenge their family honor. In the meantime, Penelope, again, write her name down. That is Odysseus's wife. Penelope, who knows nothing of this and has given up hope for Odysseus's return, proposes an archery contest to the suitors with marriage to her as the prize. She enters the storeroom and takes down the heavy bow that Odysseus left behind. So, remember on that first page on 941, they had talked about how it's really important that you understand if you have guests come, even 100 guests, You have to give them somewhere to rest. You have to give them food. You have to give them drink. And they get to stay as long as they want. Or you get mean, nasty, and kick them out. Okay? And, they had said a couple of times here that Zeus will avenge the unoffending guest. If your guest really isn't doing anything other than being a guest, you can't be rude to them, even if it is 100 people. It doesn't sound like, at least to me, that Penelope is like, yeah, baby, bring on the man. It doesn't sound like that to me. But Odysseus has to be smart here. You've been gone for 20 years. Do you think in 20 years you're going to physically change in looks? And absolutely yes, the answer would be yes. He has been gone for 20 years. Somebody tell me something you should know then. How old is Telemachus? Anybody have a clue? Odysseus has been gone for 20 years, so Telemachus has to be at least 20 years old. At least 20, maybe 21. But he's a very young man. And Odysseus has to play his cards right. He listened to Athena, which I think is a very smart thing to do. She had said, you need to go in, but disguise yourself. If you disguise yourself, what are you allowed then to do? Oh, you're going to dress yourself as a beggar? Even beggars as a guest, you have to treat them nicely. Okay? So, if you go in as a beggar, does anybody acknowledge your existence? No. Nobody worth their salt back then, if you're considering yourself worthy of marrying Odysseus's wife, you're not going to be a beggar. You're going to be a man high up in standing, in social standing. Odysseus would have had land. He would have had some type of farming of something. He may have had some wines or something like that. Could have had a lot of animals. He's not going to necessarily have lots of money. Okay? So don't think he's wealthy in that way. So there is a lot at stake. If these men ever do anything, I mean, dude, if Odysseus just knocked on the door and said, honey, I'm home, you got 100 set of eyeballs looking at you. And I'm sorry, I don't care how great Odysseus is as a leader. Couldn't that fall apart if he just announced that? To me, he's being exceptionally smart. If he tells his son, well, he's got one person on his side, doesn't he? I don't know if I'd want to put my son in that position, but anyways. So you guys have to understand one other thing, and that is for book 21, you want to write down something about this archery contest. We have to understand the archery contest. And so we're going to talk through some of this stuff on book 21 and maybe have to have somebody draw something up on the board if it's not already there. Okay? So, page 944. Now, Penelope sank down, holding the weapon on her knees. She pulled a bow off the wall. That's her husband's bow. And drew her husband's great bow out and sobbed and bit her lip and let the salt tears flow. Then back she went to face the crowded hall, tremendous bow in hand, and on her shoulder hung the quiver spiked with coughing death. Behind her, maids bore a basket full of axe heads, bronze, and iron implements for the master's game. Thus, in her beauty, she approached the suitors, and near a pillar of the solid roof she paused, her shining veil across her cheeks, her maids on either hand, and still then spoke to the banqueteers. My lords, hear me. Suitors indeed, you commandeered this house to feast and drink in day and night, my husband being long gone, long out of mine. You found no justification for yourselves, none. except your lust to marry me. Stand up then. We now declare a contest for that prize. Here is my lord Odysseus's hunting bow. Bend and string it if you can. Who sends an arrow through iron axe helve sockets, 12 in line? I join my life with his and leave this place, my home, my rich and beautiful bridal house, forever to be remembered, though I dream it only. Now let's see, do I have anything here? Just a moment. I gotta grab a pen. So, okay. So I don't know if I can draw this up on the board, if I will have remembered or anything like that. So first I want to ask you a question though, related to page 944. I want you to look for some evidence for me. Evidence has to come from the text. I want you guys to find a line on 944 that would identify, was she thrilled about this or was she not thrilled about having this competition? Is she ready to move on? Does she want another husband? I mean, it's been 20 years. She's not played checkers in 20 years. So is she ready to quit holding the candle for her husband, hoping that he's going to come home? Anybody have an answer? Okay. I'm hoping that by now you have answered. If somebody is getting answers, please pause me right now because I'm going to continue. If I looked out at lines 3 and 4, it said she had sobbed and she bit her lip and she let her tears flow. If I am crying, that means I'm not real thrilled here. Okay? Said she took her axe there, and then at line 15 she said, you commandeered this house. You took it over. Then it said again in line 16, 17, 18, you found no justification for yourselves. I never flirted. I never said I was looking for a husband. You chose to come. You think I should move on. I did not say that. So she has not given any type of a clue at all. So she has said that, hey, you have a competition. You guys got to write this in your summary sheets while I'm drawing something right now. So you've got 2 parts to a competition. Okay? The first part of the competition, can anybody tell me what the first part of the competition was? That's on page 946. At the top of that page, she told them 2 parts. You got to get the first part correct. Okay? First part, hopefully you were able to identify the line, and that was at line 22. Bend and string Odysseus's bow if you can. That's the first thing you have to do. Okay? The second thing is they're going to take something like this. Remember, I can't draw. They're going to have this axe head, and this axe head's going to be in the ground. They're going to have 12 of these all lined up perfectly. Okay? All these axe heads will be lined up perfectly in the ground. They have to be lodged in the ground. You got that handle. And then up at the top, you've got this socket, that axe helve. What did they call that exactly? Axe helve sockets. So they're going to have these tiny little rings at the end of the axe handle. So when they have that end of the axe handle, you're going to have to take the bow which you strung. You're going to have to get down. You're going to have to kneel. You're going to have to pull that bow. And you're going to have to aim it perfectly and let that arrow fly. And it's got to go through all 12 axe helve sockets. Now, who do you suppose can do that? Only one person. You suppose that could be Odysseus? Well, by George, I think that answer would be yes. But oh my God, he's dead, isn't he? He's been gone for 20 years. She just gave us some stupid competition. There's nobody that could do that. Because remember, I got 100 different men, all different walks of lives. Okay? I could be somebody else that owns a bunch of land, and maybe I'm just looking to expand my wealth. Because, can't say that women owned a lot of stuff. It would be men that would have owned stuff. So if another man could marry Penelope, they would gain all the riches that Odysseus had. She wouldn't be able to really say a whole lot about that. So those men are all looking to move themselves up that social ladder to become maybe more powerful. But I have all different kinds of men. Maybe I have some other fighters out there. Maybe I have men that have a lot of animals. Maybe I don't have a lot of land, but I have a lot of animals. That would have some wealth to it. I could be a shopkeeper of some sort. Depending on what kind of shopkeeper I am, maybe I have more money, and I could offer that then to Penelope. I could look appealing. But now all of a sudden to find out, I gotta do this competition, that's going to be really difficult to do. But she says, if you do it, I'll leave my home. I'll leave it all. Even though this has been the most magical place, I will leave my beautiful, rich, and bridal home forever. So do it, and we'll get married. Now she says something to a couple of men, okay? So the first one is at line 26, Eumaeus. Okay, you're going to want to probably write down Eumaeus. We're going to figure out who he is and why is he important. Okay, so Eumaeus is Eumaeus. Again, that's Eumaeus. She says to him, carry the bow forward, carry the blades. I want you to pay attention. Is Eumaeus good with the concept of this competition? Tears came to the swineherd's eyes as he reached out for the big bow. He laid it down at the suitor's feet. Across the room, the cowherd sobbed, knowing the master's weapon, and Antinous growled with a glance at both. So, you had Eumaeus, and it says tears came to the swineherd's eyes. So we know who he is. He is the swineherdsman. He is the guy that works for Odysseus and Penelope. Now, is he crying because I'm so sad to give up my position? Or do you suppose he's so sad because she's given up on Odysseus? It would be the latter. He is sad to see the concept of Odysseus be gone. That could be a good thing for Odysseus. And they also told us something about some other herdsman. What herdsman was that? That was the cow herdsman. We don't know his name, but we will find it out. So you're going to want to write something down, cow herdsman. You're going to have to figure out if that cow herdsman then, that cow herdsman, he also sobbed. If he also sobbed, this could potentially be a good thing. We have Eumaeus, who's the swineherdsman, and we have the cow herdsman. We have two guys, plus Odysseus' son and Odysseus. 4 guys against 100. I mean, that's only 25 guys apiece, right? Assuming they're all good at any type of fighting. But Odysseus is, bigger, stronger, better than everybody else. So, that's all good, right? Now, the suitors are not very happy that these 2 guys are crying, because it says Antinous growled with a glance at both. Okay, so make sure we pay attention to what Antinous says. Clods, they go to pieces over nothing. You 2 there, why are you sniveling? To upset the woman even more? Has she not pain enough over her lost husband? Sit down. Get on with dinner quietly, or cry about it outside if you must. Leave us the bow. A clean-cut game, it looks to me. Nobody bends that bow stave easily in this company. Is there a man here made like Odysseus? I remember him now from childhood. I can see him even now. That was how he played it. hoping inwardly to span the great horn bow with corded gut and drill the iron with this shot. He, Antinous, destined to be the first of all to savor blood from a biting arrow at his throat, a shaft drawn by the fingers of Odysseus, whom he had mocked and plundered, leading on the rest his boon companions. There's some really big stuff here. So Antinous is one of the ringleaders, okay? Very important for us to remember this. Antinous is a ringleader of these 100 men. Not the only one, but he is the number one guy. And they told us a few things here. First, I think he's got a lot of nerve to sit here in a house with 100 men and saying, oh my God, you servants, would you stop crying? You're making Penelope all upset. Well, is she upset at her herdsmen? Or is she upset because 100 strange men are all there wanting to pressure her into getting married? I think it's the second one. So he won't acknowledge that whatsoever. But then he goes on and he's just like, dude, there's nobody here that can do this competition and win. Oh my God, is there anybody here made like Odysseus? By George, yes, there is. He happens to be there. He happens to probably be in the room. Okay? See, so he's in the room. He's seeing all this stuff. Remember, disguised as a beggar. He can't just walk up and say, hey, I'm here. So, okay. He is in the room, and let's see. What else did they say? Oh, my God, something really important here. Lines 45, 46, 47, 48. It said, he had hoped inwardly to span the great horn bow with corded gut and drill the iron with his shot. Boy, my plan is, I'm telling these guys how tough it is. I'm going to string that bow. He, Antinous, destined to be the first of all to savor blood from a biting arrow at his throat. So, dude, they're already telling us exactly how Antinous is going to die. Boom. He's going to get shot right through that throat. Okay? From a biting arrow at his throat, a shaft or an arrow drawn by the fingers of Odysseus, whom he had mocked and plundered. Well, he's mocking Odysseus. Like, dude, he's not even here. He's plundered. Hey, here I am. I'm in your home. I have needs. I'm playing checkers with whoever will have me. You got lots of maidens here. I'll have checkers with them. And, oh, hey, I'm going to lead on these 98 guys or 99 guys that are with me. This is like adding fuel to the fire. Odysseus he's really, truly got to be really angry. But I also want to draw your attention to, and you don't have to look back, you can at least listen to this, is on page 944, line 7. I didn't draw attention to this right away. But on line 7, it had said, on Penelope's shoulder hung the quiver, so that little like canister on the back of the back, or on her back, it was spiked with coughing death. So those arrows are going to be shot through some of those people's throats. And some of them are going to die just because they're getting shot right through that throat. They've already told all of this to us. Okay? So the top of 947 in this section, you guys cannot read so much. It says, despite heating and greasing the bow, the lesser suitors, so 98 of those guys, prove unable to string it. The most able suitors, which was Antinous and a guy I told you to write his name down. I believe I told you. Yep, I told you from page 943. His name was Eurymachus, Eurymachus. So they are the 2 ringleaders. Okay, make sure you guys are writing this in your summary sheets. You will forget and maybe not be able to spell their names. The most able suitors, Antinous and Eurymachus, hold off. While the suitors are busy with the bow, Odysseus, still disguised as an old beggar, goes to enlist the aid of 2 of his trusted servants, Eumaeus the swineherd and Philaudeus the cowherd. So Philaudeus is the other guy. You want to write his name down because now we know he's the cowherdsman. His name is spelled Philauteus. Okay, so Odysseus has to still be careful. These two guys do not know that he's there. He did maybe perhaps see that they were crying when, oh God, she's going to accept this pressure from these 100 guys. But he still doesn't know for sure. Are you really on my side? I've been gone for 20 years. Would you still be faithful servants to me? So he's got to play this really smartly, okay? Because he can see, hey, you got 98 guys here and none of them have been able to do it. Maybe they're not the stiffest competition, but I've got these two guys that are the big ringleaders. He knows because he's watching all of this play out in this room. He knows where the trouble is, okay? 2 men had meanwhile left the hall, swineherd and cowherd, in companionship, one downcast as the other. So they are both sad guys leaving that room. But Odysseus followed them outdoors outside the court and coming up said gently, "You, herdsman, and you too, swineherd, I could say a thing to you. Or should I keep it dark? No, speak, my heart tells me. Would you be men enough to stand by Odysseus if he came back? Suppose he dropped out of a clear sky, as I did. Suppose some god should bring him. Would you bear arms for him? Or for the suitors?" So he's not saying he's Odysseus, just kind of asking, what would you guys do? Would you stand with Odysseus or walk away? The cowherdsman says,